That's so sweet. It's so true. Oh goodness, I'm not going to enjoy reading this out. I don't know what that's supposed to mean. Sorry everyone. Hello again everyone. This is not a hallucination. Yes, I am actually releasing 2 videos in a very short space of time, relatively speaking. As I said in my previous video, I have my 2-year HRT hormone anniversary coming up on Friday, I think, the 6th of February. It's really super close, and so to sort of celebrate this, I wanted to make a couple of videos, and I thought this video, after last week's or the last video that I released, which was very much a list of all of the stuff that I've done, or some of the stuff, after I released it, I realized there was a couple of things that I left off that list. Never mind, I guess I can put that into my next listicle video, I guess. But in this video, I thought what might be quite fun is right at the start of my hormone journey, even before I started the dosage, I wrote a journal for several months. I thought this would be a good idea for me to kind of capture my thoughts, to help me process a lot of the things that were going on in my head. And so I would spend some time every single day just journaling and writing down my thoughts just to kind of stop them from flying away. Now, I've never actually gone back to read those thoughts, to read those journal entries. So I thought, hey, why don't we make a video where I read and react to my journal entries from all those years ago, just to see how my thoughts were. Have my thoughts changed? Am I still in the same kind of psychological space? And if so, why do I think that is? This is quite an exciting video because, as I say, I have not reread, I have not revisited these entries at all, so this is going to be just as new for me as it is for you. It's quite exciting, and so I hope that you'll enjoy watching this video and experiencing this alongside with me. Moving to shared screen in 3, 2, 1. So this is the app that I was using. It's called Dially. I tried different apps at the start of this journal adventure, and I found this was the one that did basically everything that I needed it to do. As you can see, we're in February, but let's scooch back. As you can see, I stopped making entries and it's very, very sporadic here, but you can see that my writing was a little bit more regular throughout the first few months of me taking hormones. And so, yeah, without further ado, shall we have a look and see the first entry that I made on January the 22nd? Maybe a bit late to call this day 1. 40 days late, maybe, maybe not. Not even day 1 of this epoch, but figured maybe it's a good idea to try out that journaling thing people got on about. Handwriting sucks, so giving an electronic approach a try. Anyway, why am I writing an introduction for myself? Dear reader, blah blah. Yeah, I remember I started writing this without any kind of notion that anybody else might read this, let alone sharing this to a global audience on YouTube, as global as my 200 viewers tend to be. Anyway, let's do a quick summary of where we are so far. So obviously this is back in January 2024. Tomorrow's entry might be shorter, assuming I keep this up. And as we can see, I didn't really, let's be honest. Right, where are we? Key events to hit in 2024. Begin HRT, be out and proud as far as possible. That's probably enough for now. And that's interesting. So I had 2 main targets, and looking back at those, I have to say that I managed to tick both of those off. So let's break one down a bit. Psychologist appointment, trans certified thingy, endocrinologist appointment, ongoing support and therapy / counselling from specialist. Seek out any support from community if possible. So the psychologist, I actually saw them, I think, a couple of days after I made this post on maybe the 24th. And that's where I got a little certificate to show that I am indeed transgender and that I should get hormonal therapy because of that. The endocrinologist appointment was on the 5th of February. And I didn't actually get any further therapy. I had one more therapy session with the same group, the same organization that I got my certification from. It's an organization called Splot. If you are in Poland, I highly recommend you take their services. They were a wonderful, wonderful group, and they offer queer and trans specific therapies. So gold stars for them. Seek out any support from the community. Well, that's been one of my biggest bugbears, in that I haven't really found much of a community at all in person. Obviously, I've got this community here on my channel, which is fantastic, and there are a couple of other people that I found through Reddit and other places, but I'm not sure if I'd call them a community. I suppose I have the people around me, and I always champion those people and how wonderful I feel they've been for me. They're not really the kind of community that I'm talking about here, though. Anyway, so what are my fears here? What's my approach? Complicated admin/red tape makes the process a pain in the backside, and my approach to this is patience. Stay calm and mindful that it's a process and a marathon, not a sprint. God, I hate having to be patient. Lack of effect. I hate to say it again, but patience. You know, nothing will be overnight. Keep in mind the benefits of a longer process. And the third one, second puberty, hissing like a train. You got through the first one with various strategies. Look to those plus additional specialists. Bear in mind that if things do get fraught, don't take for granted the patience of others. Now, these are really interesting kind of bits of advice that I'm giving myself here. And I have to say, being patient and staying calm and being mindful that this is a process and a marathon, it's really good advice. It's really good advice I'm giving myself here. And it's something that I've tried to keep in mind. I think if you've been watching my channel, I have been fairly positively engaged in this whole process. I have tried to stay positive. I have tried to stay fairly mindful of the process of all of this. So, you know, I think even back then, 2 years ago, I had a fairly good regard of where things might be going. Anyway, let's continue. To be honest, probably I'm not super worried about the effects of hormones. What comes will come in time and with patience. Assuming I can navigate the early stages and together with the various specialists come up with a clear plan and general timeline. Yes, the impatient monster is demanding everything now, but we don't always need to feed them upon demand now, do we? Yes. I did get a bit of a psychic shock yesterday from the resources suggested by the Transfusia guy. That magazine was a bit on the icky side and full of sad old people. I suppose the problem there is that space caters for all designations and characters. Thinking about it, I'd say most trans people maybe don't hang out in trans-specific spaces. I don't think I will. I mean, how long can you talk about and worry about these things years down the line after having started transitioning? I suppose I'll find out in due course. For those who haven't been able to get to a point where they can pass or whatever, maybe they need the support and validation from others in that space. I mean, there is a specific demographic it seems to speak to. No wonder they were looking for ways to reach a younger audience. Well, this is an interesting little aside. Now, I guess the day or a couple of days before this entry had met a guy from an organization called Transfusia. That's maybe even one of the only trans-specific organizations in Poland. I guess in his defense, they can't have a lot of resources, especially for English-speaking people. And so I guess he did his best. But he did link me to I think it's a British website, crossdressing.com or crossdressing.pl or something like this. And this is what I'm talking about when I said it caters for all designations. So I suppose this space started off as a place for cross-dressers to give information and a forum for them to communicate with each other. And I may have started off as potentially a cross-dresser myself. I talked in my other video about how I would dress in female clothing many years before I even started transitioning, and maybe for a little while I would have identified more as a cross-dresser than as somebody who's transgender. But in that kind of space where it is more sort of cross-dresser, let's say, specific, it's, I think, a very different type of mindset to being trans. And that's not to diminish like cross-dressers. They enjoy what they enjoy and that's fine. But that's not who I am. It's certainly not who I am anymore. I mean, I have to be honest, I'm a little bit unhappy with the wording that I've got here. And I know this is obviously an honest journal that was designed, that I set this up for myself. I didn't mean to be broadcasting this out into the world. And I think the language that I'm using here isn't fantastic. I suppose back then I was still quite fearful of how I might turn out, so to speak, years down the line. And I think maybe my reaction to these, what do I say, sad old people, and assuming that maybe they're worrying about not passing and needing support and validation. I think that comes from my own fears of what my own future might turn out to be, and looking at people who are maybe early in their transition themselves, maybe they're in that kind of awkward phase, which I certainly have been through, and I'm not sure if I could say that I'm out of yet. It's quite scary, and kind of acknowledging that that might be your own sort of close future, it's not ideal. So yes, I don't think that's fantastic language on my part, but I do think this is an honest journal, and maybe that language is coming out in that way. Anyway, let's move on to the second part of the plan. Find out about the potential for problems at work. Ilona and Lee, who are the HR manager and my then line manager, gradually come out privately to those who deserve it. Family and close friends come out privately to those who don't, mainly Agnieszka, and Agnieszka is my ex-wife. Come out broadly at work. Fears and approach. Some people at work are disappointing. My approach to that is fuck 'em, which I think that's fairly fair. Mum, dad gets weird. This is to be expected, to be honest. I kind of expect my dad to be weird, but I kind of think he'll get to the point of sending to my daughter and her partner Christmas cards this year. Smiley face. Mum is very much a wild card. She strikes me as the sort of person to have one conversation about it and not bring it up again. Guess we'll find out. Maybe I was a bit optimistic about my dad, but in fairness, he has been pretty good. He's asked me a lot of questions. We've had a lot of conversations about things. I don't think he's anywhere close to daughter and partner Christmas cards just yet, but in his defense, both him and my mother are sending cards to Abby. They're sending communications to Abby. They're using my name, and they, as far as I know, are using my pronouns as well. So that's really quite something. I was maybe a little bit pessimistic about how things might go with my parents, and although I put them at, I think, C or maybe B, in general, I'm kind of happy with how my parents have been. The wider world, it's not great. And bear in mind, this is 2024 and things have only got worse since 2024. So when I say it's not great, it's now an active dumpster fire. Sadly, not a lot I can actively do about the state of the world. There'll be moments and times where things go badly. One of the ways I got over the Trans Living magazine shock, which was the cross-dressing thing I was talking about earlier, was to remind myself I'm perhaps a little bit more self-aware than them. I'm hoping that even if I don't end up with the results I want, I'll be happy to be rocking an androgynous look rather than, and I'm so sorry to write this, but knowing this isn't for publication, oh goodness, I'm not going to enjoy reading this out, a 60-year-old guy in age-inappropriate makeup, miniskirt and high heels. Sorry, everyone. Meanwhile, yes, I know, I can expect some people to be shitty, but I also expect most people to be somewhere on the neutral to positive end of the scale. I guess here the key is to not allow one bad interaction to ruin a day, week, month. Truth be told, won't be easy. So that's all very interesting. Back then, I do remember that I was very, I'm going to say I was trying to stay realistic about how my kind of results might be. I mean, to be honest, looking at myself now in the mirror and in photos, in these videos, I never expected to get the results that I've had. And I know I'm not exactly some kind of model or anything like that, but I mean, honestly, I can go out and I can expect to just get by. I don't know whether I pass or not, to be honest. It doesn't really cross my mind. I go out and I have interactions with people and I'm treated like a person. I'll go to Carrefour, I'll go to Sephora, I'll go to work, I'll meet people, and I go into these interactions without any kind of anxiety and with every expectation that things are going to be fine. And I think, going back to what I was saying before, when I was writing this, I was still quite anxious about whether I would get to the point where I am now. As I've said in previous videos, normalcy was my goal, and I think that's close to where I am, if not where I am already. And I think looking at some of the ways that some of the people were presenting in this cross-dresser magazine or this cross-dresser website maybe wouldn't have afforded me that level of normalcy that I would have wanted. Am I more self-aware than other people? I don't know. I think that's incredibly unfair because I don't know who those people were and I was being incredibly judgmental. Anyway, let's continue. I think that as I'm now over a month past concluding that I'm ready to transition, things are getting more real, especially when thinking about what negative effects there might be. It could affect some things at work, it could affect some day-to-day stuff, it could give Agnieszka, my ex-wife, more ammunition to annoy me with. Yeah, it all could, and in some cases will. But what will be, should I put this off? I don't know what that's supposed to mean, but what will be, should I, what am I trying to say there? I don't know. Maybe I'll come clear in a moment. I'll be back here in several years' time beating myself up for not having started now. I see what I'm trying to say. Here, I'm thinking about the certainties of if I don't transition. So what will happen if I put this off, I think is what I'm saying there. I'll be back here in several years' time beating myself up for not having started now, possibly in a place and time which is less suitable. This isn't going away, this being me being transgender. This is who I am. Do I want to grow old and die never having been able to be myself? No. Will it be worth all the fuss and mayhem? Will it fucking better well be? This notion of knowing how things will turn out if I don't transition, that idea of growing old and being regretful was a huge motivator for me. This whole idea, it was, I think, one of those kind of pillars that really did create that foundation for the idea that I need to transition. So one rule I promised myself about this journal thing is to try to begin and end with some positives, save the negativity and moaning and self-pity for the middle bit. I realised I won't manage to start with overtly positive stuff, so let's end with a few highs. Number one, I'm actually doing this. An obvious one to start off with, but come on Andy, give yourself some praise here and never lose sight of this. Yes, you only really knew after childhood teenage years. Could you have started things earlier? Maybe, maybe not. When though? Not at the start of your teaching experience. Could you have done it before? Maybe. But did you really know? Were you really ready then? Today, Andy, the Andy on 22nd January 2024, doesn't really think so. Let go of any guilt over not having started this earlier and celebrate that you're doing this today. That's really, absolutely, 100% still completely agree with that. This is no longer that is something for other people or something that you can't do. You can do this. You know you can. You can get past any shit that comes your way because that's what you do. But more than that, the possibility that you're working towards something more than doing okay is worth looking forward to. This is why, for the past several weeks, you've only been looking ahead. How many times have you wished you'd changed this or that in the past? Barely at all. If you're reading this months or years from now, I hope you remember this time. Even if it's all gone to shit, it was in service to bringing a dream to life. Future Andy, the present Andy, or Abby, I suppose as it should say, you who is reading this, do you remember how you didn't really sleep for weeks after making this decision because you'd wake up basically every night like, fuck, I'm actually doing this? When was the last time you were ever this excited? When was the last time you had such hopes about the future? Again, even things are not great in your time, future Andy. I hope you can remember these days. Oh, that's so sweet. It's so true. It's so true. I was so excited back then, and I'm right. I had never really looked to the future with such optimism and hope as I was back then. It was such an exciting time. And I do feel so grateful to myself for making this decision. And yeah, past Andy, I completely agree with what you say there. No, I'm actually doing this. Yes, you are. It's going to be tough, but it's going to be fine. Yes, on both of those counts. I can see how I might be cute, or at least not a complete disaster. I hope I don't become obsessed with trying to pass, and whether my skull is the right shape or whatever. But hey, narrow-ish jaw, fairly slim, keep up the yoga and keep that figure. That doctor laughed at me because I don't have a lot of gym muscle. Well, who's laughing now, motherfucker? So what, I'm 190 centimeters, more of me to kick your ass. Okay, late now, gotta hang some laundry, back tomorrow. Oh, that's really interesting. That's really interesting. I mean, obviously that is a lot. It's a lot of text, but there's some really nice stuff in there. And even though there's some kind of gross, borderline, transphobic stuff in there, as I say, I think that was coming from a place of fear, which I think I'm past now. There's some really good, positive messages in there, and I don't know, maybe if some of you are very early in your transitional lives, or even thinking about starting, I think maybe there is some stuff in that you could probably take from it. Anyway, so let's move on. I know this was a lot, but let's have a look on the 6th of February. This was the first day I took hormones. So let's see what I have to say about that. Day 16. I think day 16 of journal writing. Meds in, sitting on the table. This is me though, typical me. Can't sleep for days with excitement, going in anticipation through the day as I wait for the workday to end so I can go to the pharmacy to collect them. Oh, that's a long sentence, Abby, come on. And now what? I have them on the table and I've not really done anything with them. I was thinking maybe I'd add my celebratory pic to a Reddit thread to experience a little positivity, but I'm not really interested. I'm relieved to have them, but I suppose all the build-up leads to just another day, another evening. I don't know if I was expecting something more, some kind of frisson of thrill as I took the stuff from the bag. Well, I've read the instructions at least. It seems that estradiol, so I haven't spelt it correctly, instructions differ from the doctor's, but then again it does say to follow the doc's instructions, so that's what I shall do. I certainly have enough supplies for now. 5 boxes with 6 patches per box and 2 patches per week equals 3 weeks per box equals 15 weeks. Why am I mathsing here? 3 months when my next appointment is 12 weeks, so that seems like enough. Oh, I think I was kind of worried that I might run out of patches before the next appointment. That was very trusting of me about my endocrinologist. Meanwhile, I must have about the same equivalent of Spiro, 15 times 4 pills per box, 3 boxes equals to 180 pills, of which I need 2 per day equals 90 days. So that would need to get refilled in 3 months' time. I suppose having these boxes sit here on the table again reinforces the realness of all of this. On the one hand, on the one hand, I feel like the last couple of months have flown by. Have I moved too quick? But on the other hand, how long have I waited and dreamt of making these stats? Some of this I think is coming from a place where there's still so much to do, people to tell and stuff to organise. Next on my list has to be electrolysis or laser treatment. That can come later this month or next, I guess. To some extent, the sooner the better. Screw it, let's make that Reddit post. I should get some of that internet adoration, only for a day or so until the next person comes along. Mood rating, through the day probably an 8 or even a 9, now a calm 7.5. Okay, so this is much shorter, which is good for you guys. So that's really interesting. And you can see there's a very different kind of tone from this to this. And I suppose like what you can tell is that there's that sense of this is real now. And also maybe I'm feeling a little bit like it's not exactly a letdown, but maybe I was expecting something a little bit more kind of emotional. And I do remember it all felt very transactional. But I mean, that's exactly what it was. It was a transaction. But also, I do remember that process, and you can see this was the 22nd of January when I made my first entry. And when did I have my trans certification? So that's on day number 4. When did I see the endocrinologist? I think that was on the 5th. So that's 2 weeks. So within 2 weeks, I'd made my first journal entry, had my transgender certification, gone to the endocrinologist, got my medication. So that was all very, very quick. So I don't know, maybe I was feeling like things had progressed pretty rapidly. But by the same token, you know, there's been a 40-year lead-in to this. So while on the one hand, as I say in here, it felt quite quick and quite friction-free. On the other, I think it was very much a question of the process doing what I think it should do. In a way, I guess that lack of resistance was quite natural to who I am, to be able to get all of these things. The endocrinologist offered a very, very easy service. But I suppose it should be easy for somebody like myself, who is an adult, who is in their 40s, who knows exactly who they are and what they need. And I think given those things, it makes sense for me personally to have that kind of experience. And I'm sure other people maybe have different ones given their circumstances. So there we have it. I hope that you enjoyed this video. I really enjoyed going back to my past, my roots, I guess you could call them. It was quite interesting looking at the inner workings of my mind, and although some of it's a little bit not fantastic, I have to say I'm quite impressed at my general kind of attitude towards things. I seem quite grounded. I seem incredibly positive. I seem forgiving of my past self, because it could have been easy to say, well, why didn't I do this sooner? Have I stayed the same? I mean, I would have to see other entries to see exactly if there were any other things that I would be regretful of or maybe critical of. If you enjoyed this video, do let me know, because I really enjoyed making this. It was nice reading my history, my historical thoughts from the past. And if you would be interested and curious to learn a little bit more about Andy from 2024 rather than Abby from 2026, that's what we're in now, isn't it? Just let me know and I'll happily make another one of these videos. I can tell you all about my trip to the endocrinologist, or that I met the psychologist, because I think that would be an interesting entry to read, don't you think? Anyway, I will leave it there. I hope that you are all doing really, really well. And I look forward to seeing you all very, very soon. Take care. All the best. Goodbye.